been very, very keen on talking and knowing about on the entire purpose of this entire webinar, which happens to be how do we manage this classroom, which has suddenly become a click away and not merely the four walls of the four walls of the classroom that we've been very, very keen on. So I just throw up the first question. To all of you, and I would want Rakshit to also participate in that, is that what's been unique about this entire online learning experience, and when we talk about online learning experience, unfortunately, it's an oft used term right from the online learning that a lot of organizations do for their employee training and reskilling, a lot of online learning that happens across for the higher education and the undergraduate programs. But when we talk about the K-12, we talk about schooling, what has been unique about this entire online learning. And I would want Ms. Meenakshi to maybe start off the entire session helping us understand more about this.
Thank you, Rohit. And a very happy new year to all of you. Thank you for having us here. And, full credit to EduStoke. What is unique about online learning? I think, firstly, let me tell you, we have a chairman, General Lalotra, who was the principal at MIO for 6 years, and we're very fortunate to have him as a chairperson. He has been telling us about digital and online learning for the last 3.5 years that he's been associated with us. And at Summerfield, our teachers were already pretty well prepared for this challenge. And our students and our teachers, of course, they have upskilled, and our students have taken to it rather well. And I think the flexible schedule, the children can plan their schedule so well. And also the kind of self-discipline and the responsibility that the students have started taking upon themselves. So that's rather unique. And I think it's a good way forward. That's what I feel.
Ms. Geeta, you would want to share your thoughts as well?
Sure. Thank you so much. I think what's also made us do really is get a kind of feedback or the teachers in terms of their pedagogy, because we have the luxury of recording our classes and actually seeing them in playback. And the same applies to the students. So in terms of differentiated instruction, I think this is a step up, because when a child can look at his or her recorded session, he or she can learn at his or her pace. So that has really helped us. Yes, it required a lot of stepping up and quick thinking on your feet. But at Pragyanam, we are already doing a lot of work, what we call work, visual, audio, reading, and kinesthetic. So the visual on the oral part got a little more pronounced. And that's what we had to learn. But I think it's helped both students and teachers inform on teaching and learning. That for me has been something very unique. Anuradha, you were raising your hand. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. So I personally, whatever said and done about the pandemic, I think it was a great disruptor. And, there were things that there was always a pushback from everyone. But now, because we had no choice, we had to kind of, raise the bar, so to say. So I think it has been a great learning curve for everyone, be it for me and for the teachers and for my children. They've been the best actually, and of course the parent also. So I see a couple of things. I think Meenakshi's already talked about flexibility, and Geeta's talked about the feedback. I would also say, it's like giving agency to the children, that autonomy. So they are, you today you decide to sit in your bedroom, this thing, tomorrow, you are sitting in another room. So there's a little kind of a thing that my children have been making a little kind of a desk for themselves, doing, unique things, adding that creativity to the whole process, so to say. That is one thing I would say. And also, see, everywhere else, there was a complete stoppage. Education is the only field, of course, healthcare was there, where nothing stopped. I think we didn't lose a single school day. So I feel that it was a great, I salute all the educators, and it's been a great learning. So I would never say that, oh, of course, pandemic should not have happened, and that is not good, but then it was a great learning for everyone. So I think what was unique was that it showed us the strength. And I do so many strategies to teach resilience to our children. I think with this, our children have learned important lessons. All of us have learned important lessons which no strategy would have been able to demonstrate. So that's what I would say.
Yes.
Can I?
Please go ahead, Ms. Sarkar.
Okay, thank you again for having me on this panel. Now, at Vega Schools, the methodology that we follow is problem-based learning, where we use real-world problems, and our children, they find solutions that are of use to the community. And, I think this was the biggest learning for all of them, that they got a real-world, real problem, and look at the way all of them dealt with it. And there is, IQ, there is EQ, yes, but what I feel is adaptability quotient is the way forward. And we teach our children to take on life problems. We make them future ready to handle all real world challenges and problems. And look at the way they did it, they adapted, they realized they had no option, absolutely. So overnight, everybody was thrown into the deep end of the pool, and what champion swimmers, be it parents, be it teachers, be it children, there were apprehensions, but everybody realized that there wasn't any option. This was the way forward. So they took it by the horns and they fine-tuned it, they polished it, they found ways out, they looked for strategies, and they moved forward. And I would say every single aspect of this online teaching has been unique. As Anuradha ma'am just mentioned, resilience. Yes, they've learned patience, resilience, grit. They've shown empathy, time management skills. We talk about at Vega, we talk about 21st century skills that we need to prepare them for the 21st, for the real world. Well, I think each one of it, all the aspects, cornerstone skills, life and career, every aspect has been very well handled. And hats off to our children. It's not easy to sit across from a laptop. It becomes extremely monotonous, but hats off to them. They've developed the patience and the resilience, and they've sat there. They've helped each other out. They've helped their teachers out. I've had children, little ones, 4 and 5 year old, who've told their teachers that, ma'am, just log out once and log in again. Your connection
Yeah,
problem
true,
will come.
true.
Yes.
So I think
Teachers students have been facilitators and a part of this entire
totally.
journey on
So I
adapting.
think adaptability quotient is something that is required going forward, and that has been hugely addressed through this pandemic. All of us had done, even parents, very, very troubled initially, very disturbed. Teachers, they didn't know how to do it because they always knew how to stand in a classroom and teach, and they've used technology in the classrooms, but never taught absolutely through technology. So yes, all the upskilling, all the teaching that they had to do for themselves, all the learning, they had to learn, unlearn, relearn, whole lot of skills went into it. So I think whole online teaching has its positives and adaptability quotient, as I would go with it. That's how it is.
So when we stick to education, when we stick to academics, obviously the online education has ensured continuity, adaptability. It has evolved, helped to learn at times better than what might have been in a conventional classroom environment. But schooling is not only about academics. I'm sure all of you would agree, running some phenomenally good institutions over these years, the schooling goes far beyond only academics, and our co-curricular, extracurricular discipline, social, the entire community build-up has taken an immense backseat. And how have we been able to address those things, or how would we see this particular part going forward? Because we are to live with COVID. I don't think it is going to be one fine day, 15th March, and it has gone away. It will continue to be a part of our lives for some more months and years to come. How have you been coping with that, and how do you intend to actually take this forward as well? Because it continues to be a very interesting and dynamic, fluid situation. Please go ahead, Ms. Geeta.
Yeah, so it was a challenge, but we continued with our very robust, we call it co-scholastic curriculum. So we have children doing theater, we have children doing dance, and we had children doing physical education. So what teachers have done is sometimes it's live teaching, but sometimes she records a video and she makes the children do it. And fortunately, it has turned out to be the favorite subjects of the children.
True.
And they move around and they dance around. And the idea of, doing art
Hmm.
online, I mean, it was, one had never heard of it. But
Hmm.
how beautifully the teachers have adapted and beautiful works of art have come in. There's been a big jump in terms of using software to create art. So we've had a whole unit where we've done curriculum, digital art.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of thing that the children have learned. And going forward, a lot of the parents who come to us and are looking for admission, I think these are informed parents. They say, we know we are not focused on grades alone. We
Hmm.
want children to get a deeper dive into other programs like reading or robotics. So what are you doing for that? So because we are going to be a day school also, so 3:30 to 6:30 is going forward. We're going to have an even deeper dive into theater, music, art. We call it our enrichment program. So rather than it just being children finishing their homework, or it being a daycare for working parents, we'll actually do a deeper dive in all these areas. Because online it was so successful, we're hoping that when schools physically open, this really works beautifully and attracts a lot of parents, because these parents now know what they want for their children, and they've all moved away from your typical standard, I want my 99% and get into a good college. They want, as Vasudhata said, they want the children to be life ready, because that's what we are going forward with. So online, it has worked in its own way. That has been my experience at Pragyan.
We too, actually, for us also, we have a co-scholastic program. And as Geeta said, even our program has been very, very successful, because we've done art the traditional way. But there's been a lot of learning there also, because we've taught them how to do 2D and 3D shapes, triangles, ovals, squares, and make objects out of them. So, they're doing artwork. There's learning involved there also. And, it's also eye-hand coordination that happens for the little ones at that point of time. So a lot of soft skill development happening there. And theater, we've also actually gone ahead and done assemblies, and we've done a virtual production also, where we did a play based on Satyajit Ray's Gupiga and Bagabain. And it was done through facial makeup. So the art teacher taught them how to do their makeup for them. And the art teacher also helped them make, the props that went with it. And the entire thing was done through facial expression and voice modulation. So that is how it was done. And the children really enjoyed doing that, because the creativity aspect was also addressed there. And it was something that kept them busy, constructively occupied, actually, because, they are going online for long periods of time. So we need to give them constructive things to work on. So all these creative activities kept them busy offline also, other than the academic work that they had to do. So we've done assembly sports also. We've had online Zumba classes. We've done skipping on the spot, and we've done other physical activities, whatever you can do in front of a screen, given the kind of space that you have over there. We've played games with them that go and find five things that start with the S, or five shiny things, because we are till grade 8. So the majority of our age group is from 3 till say 8 or 9. So it's very difficult to hold their attention span. You need to think of new ways of, it has to be teaching also, but it has to be interactive, it has to be fun. So it's been difficult, but challenging. And I think our teachers have kind of really, really lived up to the challenge. They've raised the bar for themselves each time they've gone online.
Yeah, I also want to add to that. So I think co-scholastic, I think actually it's a misnomer when we say co-scholastic. I think it's even more important than the so-called academic or scholastic, So I think all of us have, been mindful of that. And whether it was synchronous or asynchronous, we've ensured that, children have the, necessary whatever whether it is theater or art or sports games. And as I think we've heard before from Geeta and Vasudhata, we've had everything like production, sports day, and the kids had so much fun. And Children's Day, where the teachers were the clowns and the magicians, and children were doing all kinds of things and narration. And it's been so wonderful. And, I think the best has come out. I mean, like when the chips are down, so to say, I think they've really kind of innovated. And I think it is very, very important, because I think it also gives them that extra kind of, edge, so to say, and, having fun. So in that kind of, when everyone else perhaps is kind of not feeling so good, when they learn something, and then I see the dads being involved in doing some making some clay material, and helping them cook and do all kinds of thing, and or grandma sitting there, and we have that one session where we call experts. So expert can be a mom who's a pilot, so she's sitting in her cockpit and talking to the children and showing them, or it was a grandmother who was a biologist, and who was talking about it. So children have had such a great exposure, which otherwise wouldn't have been possible. I've had artisans, I've had archaeologists coming, things which were actually difficult in the physical classroom for me, and now people are ready to log in and help us out. I had an engineer who was talking to the children about the wind energy, and then again they created their own windmills. So it's been a beautiful journey. So I don't think we've compromised, as schools. I think we've really looked at it. It's been a little challenging, I would say, but it's been a great learning. I mean, I'm very happy with where we are today. I think we are in a much better space, and this pandemic has actually helped us reinvent ourselves. I would say that.
No, at Summerfield School, yes, things have been very challenging for all of us, be it the parents, be it the students. It's indeed very, very challenging. And there has been a social emotional impact also. Despite that, the children, the parents, the teachers, everybody has risen to the occasion. At Summerfield School, our students, they've had their, of course, in-house production. They had their annual day. They had their investiture ceremony, which was done online. They had their sports day online, which was, I was asked to judge one of the yoga competitions. They had an inter-house yoga competition and other activities. They had an art exhibition. Truly remarkable, truly, truly remarkable. And I think this generation going forward, having gone through the pandemic, is going to grow up far more, they're going to be far more responsible. They will have a greater degree of empathy. And even in the classrooms, the way they have taken charge, even a second standard child, the way they have started doing presentations.
Yes.
They wait their turn, mute, unmute, they wait their turn.
I beg your pardon?
I said they wait their turn, they become very patient.
Absolutely.
Raise their hand, they will mute.
This has become a great platform for, what are the schools in wanting to do? Create leaders. And this has been a great, great opportunity to do that.
Rakshit, looking at it from, a little distance, earlier there were a lot of challenges on how schools would look at technology and the handling of technology. And then suddenly online education, every household becoming a classroom, every living room becoming a classroom. I'm sure you must have been swarmed with a lot of interesting anecdotes and issues, challenges, and interesting things all together. Would you want to share some bits across?
I think
you're on mute, Mr. Tandon. You're on
mute. Sorry. So thank you so much for inviting me, and a very happy New Year, and to all of you. I'm feeling really out of place because I'm the most negative person when it comes to talking about online safety, cyber crimes, and cyber security. And listening to Meenakshi ma'am, Geeta ma'am, and Radha ma'am, Vasadatta ma'am. So you are all so excited and you're so happy with this online education thing. But when it started in March, I was bombarded with challenges from schools that a Zoom meeting was going on. Somebody just came inside with a fake name. Something very wrong happened on the screen, which was very shocking for the teacher, for the children, for the parents. right from, and it's not stopped as of now, but yes, I would agree to all of them that yes, we have matured. Children especially, the thing which I was doing since 2008, before meeting Rohit, when we went to almost, I think, 50 to 60 schools across the country, and I was traveling back to back. I remember reading a book in 1995 from Bill Gates, The Road Ahead, and that in that book in 1995 he was talking about e-education, he was talking about online presentation. That time he has shown an example in video of paying from a Paytm wallet in 1995, that you can go to a McDonald's and you just touch your wallet and the payment will be done. And today, now I'm happy that we as a country have learned the importance of internet, the importance of online education, especially children have learned. So I started online education in the year 2000 in US. I used to do trainings online. So sitting in from my residence, I used to train the people in US through Skype at that time. And so we were always aware of it. But yes, initially, as agreed to all of the panelists, they were saying that it was challenging. For teachers also, it was challenging to understand the technology, to understand the nitty-gritties of the platform. So initially what happened was most of the schools, they started using meeting platform for teaching platform. So that was the mistake we did. And that's why, because meeting is a different thing and teaching is a different thing. So those were the challenges. But yes, one thing positive which I see here, as I rightly mentioned, I've been invited by hundreds of schools, and in single day, I was like in the morning, I was in Hyderabad, in the afternoon, I was in Bangalore. So that, and if you remember, Rohit, the way you made me travel, I was having a bunch of boarding passes, and a person like me, like I was traveling 20, 25 days to the airport. And now in one day, I can travel the whole country at my ease. I just have to dress up on the top to the camera level, and now it's so convenient. So no bag, no laptop bag, nothing for me. But yes, the basic thing was to teach digital citizenship to our children, and I think this lesson has made better digital netizens. Children love technology, just as mentioned by ma'am, that they do online art programs and singing program, dancing programs online. They love to come in front of the camera. That's why they were so popular on Instagrams and Facebook. And I remember before March, every school in the PTA meetings, in the parent-teacher meetings, they used to tell parents, keep restricted screen time for your child, give them your phones and keep them away from Facebook, Instagram. And I'll tell you, recently, some very young children, they have started so much of social activities on Instagram during the pandemic. There are some young boys and girls who started their own small projects about stop bullying, stop body shaming. And these young kids, I was so happy and fascinated. They invited me, sir, please come and join a live session with us. And they invited me to their MUNs, they invited me to their events. And I was so happy to see my children being so creative and so feeling responsible for the society. So all this has been a positive change. Yes, we have seen the negative trends. With this, the cyber crimes have increased, no doubt, because once your screen time goes up, you are vulnerable to the platform. So cyber awareness is important. I've been seeing a lot of cases of online frauds. If you look at the statistics coming from Government of India, last year only we suffered an attack of 1.25 lakh crores. Wow. And from March to this, I don't have the exact statistics, but only in July we had more than 30,000 complaints online. And then also to share that in the last 3 months, our CBI has busted 5 rackets of online child pornography dissemination in India. And that was a serious thing, because actually when children, they have their penetration online, their screen time increases, so they are vulnerable to predators, they are vulnerable to scams and viruses and stuff like that. So I think the need of cyber safety and cyber security education has also emerged with our online presence, to keep our devices safe, to keep our privacy safe. And we should be more responsible for our devices, because our device is my school. Right now, for a child, when I talk about my child, he's going to a cyber school. He's not going to a school, he's going to a cyber school. And for that, parents also need to be. I'll just share one incident, and that I hope will answer my apprehension. That recently a parent was shocked when she received the bill of 11 lakh rupees for her credit card. And when inquired, it was found out that her 6-year-old child has done in-app purchases on an online game through her iPad, because on your iPads and Apple devices, your Apple Store is automatically signed in with your credit or debit card. And children, when they play online games, they can buy in-app purchases. They can buy accessories, buy a better armor or a skin or a gun or something. And it starts ranging from $1 to $100, something like that. And this child, 6-year-old, in his innocence, it's just a press of buttons. It doesn't go for an OTP. It doesn't go for a verification. And she was shocked when she received the bill of 11 lakh rupees. And similarly, something happened here in Punjab with a 16-year-old boy. So more device responsibility is important. Device security is important. And especially when we are talking about young children. When I'm talking to 9, 10, 12, it's a totally different ball game. But when I'm talking to these nurseries and first and second and third graders, we have to be very patient. Why? Because they are very, very young, very impressionable, and something goes wrong on their screen can really scare them off. So I remember when I got a complaint from a school where a second grade class was going on and somebody raided the class, the Zoom class, with some obscene content. So the child said, we had a monster in our class today. And the teacher was shocked. The school has taken my help to solve that issue. But I think the priority, everything is good and fine. The priority is digital citizenship, netiquette, cyber wellness. Digital wellness is very important. People like us, like I've been working 8 to 10 hours on the screen, and there are times when I have severe headache, and all kind of I have to take all kind of precautions to maintain my health when my screen time increases. So all these things also have to be kept in mind.
Yeah.
And also to teach children about the different type of threats what we are facing. And I have seen a very positive response from children in programming and cyber security, that is ethical hacking. So I recently started this startup 2 years back. I never knew this will happen, but 2 years back I started a startup called Hacker Shala, where it's not Pathshala, it's a Hacker Shala, where I teach ethical hacking. I teach proactive approach, how to protect your platform so that you become a responsible cyber warrior. And this, I found a very terrific response from young children who wanted to learn coding, programming, and ethical hacking. So, and we started an online virtual playground for them where they can actually work on live cases, and we call it Capture the Flag. And we put ready-made exercises for them, a simulated window machine, a simulated Apple machine. You go and find the problem in that machine. And it has been getting a very terrific response from children. So I think education into cybersecurity should be a must. We should make it a compulsory subject like moral science we have. We should have now cyber moral science. I call the virtual ethics. And I think with this, we have made our children more responsible, as rightly pointed out by everyone. And I've seen a change. I've been working in this for since 2008. 4.5 million students I've addressed. I've been to Europe. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Dubai schools. I've seen all kind of schools and children. And now I can see a very positive change in the term and the usage of the internet, in spite of whatever issues we have online. But then, yes, I can say that this has created a very positive impact.
I just want to add, sorry. I just, from what Rakshit has just shared, the hazards will be there. But what we as responsible institutions can do is, like at Summerfield, every quarter, there is this organization called Jago Teens. It's an NGO. And we call them, they come and educate our children on the hazards of net security, internet security. Then they come and educate the children on net etiquettes. That's very, very vital, how they should be attending these classes and all that. So all that is being taken care of, because there's never enough of it. But every 3 months, we do it once at Summerfield.
Okay.
Interesting.
We had Mr. Tandon himself coming and teaching, talking to our students and
Yes, I've
talking
done
to our
that.
parents as well. Very required.
Please go ahead, Ms. Geeta.
Yeah, this is a question I want to address to Rakshit, but any other panelists are free to join. So the other day I was talking with someone and they said that, there is a startup which is happening where they're using AI to record the facial expressions of children and teachers and figuring out and giving you real-time data about, are the children listening or are they comprehending? I mean, what is your take on that? Because it looks very promising, but I think there's a dark side to it also. I just wanted your
It has
thoughts
a dark
on it.
side. Ma'am, this was, I remember this 4 years or 5 years back, I met this company who has started doing this, and they were doing it with advertising companies as a commercial venture to give a positive feedback to the client, whether your ad has been seen, what were your expressions, and with the help of artificial intelligence, they will see, are you listening to the conversation? Are you liking it? Are you not liking it? Are you liking the video? This 4 5 years back, I met this company, and I think this is what now they are trying to integrate here. My whole concern comes to the issue of privacy and the privacy of children and parents as well. Because see, when it comes to anything like this, we should always have a consent of the child and the parent, and they should know that something like this is happening. Yes, you're right. There can be a darker side to things, but then if you look at the positive side of this, yes, it will help you improve your communication strategy or your content which you are sharing. So that, and you can also evaluate children better in the sense. But then I don't want this to be a permanent platform to everything, because that can be a problem. But yes, AI is going to take over very soon. It is already, the discussions have started. The systems are working on this. You search one thing and the cookie will take it to another level from your system, and you start getting that content. And the same is the debate happening today when we are talking about WhatsApp updating their privacy policies. A lot of schools have sent me messages since morning that we have our WhatsApp groups, Mr. Tandon, what should we do? And I was just before I was joining this session, I was at Rajya Sabha TV, and the same method we were discussing that by 8th of February, if you don't accept the terms and conditions of Facebook, you should delete Facebook or WhatsApp. You have to delete WhatsApp. And otherwise, they will start sharing the data to Facebook. So whatever you do on WhatsApp, they will be sharing it to the parents company, and that is what the discussion was. So with this AI based applications, my concern is privacy, and if we address that issue, I think taking those tests and or taking it as a pilot is not objectionable at all. It can always help you to understand the kind of delivery you are doing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rakshit.
So I just want to respond to that. So Geeta, like I personally feel that even in a classroom, how do we know that a child is listening or not listening? We have our own ways of finding out.
Evaluation.
Why do we need an AI tool? Firstly, like I'm kind of, again, wary of it, as Dr. Rakshitji said. And in fact, I don't know if you've experienced, sometimes it happens, you're just discussing about getting something, and then you start getting those ads, suddenly you start receiving, I don't know how it's happening. And you're,
they're listening to your
Alexa's
microphone. So
Alexa listens all the time.
ma'am, most of the applications we use, our microphones are on, and they listen to the keywords, and then they start pushing it with the AI algorithm. So that day itself, we were talking about a product, and suddenly I opened my social media, and the first thing was that. So, and we, for children, we always advise, because children, they are experimental in nature, and they try to go on every new website, download every new tool, and there's no one to guide them as a moral policing officer that whether it is right or wrong. So then it becomes a little scary, because we also understand as adults that one wrong click or word on in your Google Chrome or your browser history can change the content altogether, and it can lead you to such content which is not appropriate, and then the child might get affected with it. And I don't want to take the discussion in that domain right now, but in this last 7-8 months, I had seen some very scary cases. And right now, also, one of the cases I'm handling is related to something like this, where, and I'll just close it with one word, and you might think on that word. It's called online grooming. And we are very scared of this word, online grooming, where the bad actors, they pick up the targets and they groom them into a negative. So that's why, as mentioned earlier also, that it's very, very important to have regular, not only regular, but daily sessions on cyber ethics and cyber awareness, so that people are aware of, like, let me just give you one quick awareness. That's Covaxin, this vaccine which is coming for COVID. The hackers have already started a scam on that. So you might receive a link or a mobile app and asking you to register for your vaccine if you want a vaccine. And that form, when you fill up, it steals all your personal credentials. It is not an official compilation from any government. It is just a fake. And one of my cyber cells in Uttar Pradesh have already busted. It is in the news right now. If you see the current news, that one of these bad hacker and actor has cyber criminal has been arrested for doing this, and he was doing it for last few days. So this, it's so dynamic here in our space, and the children, they keep on experimenting new applications. So it is very important for us to guide them.
Yeah, and from I wanted to ask you, Rakshitji. So this example that you gave about that of that 6-year-old who had, spent so much of money. In fact, I have a friend whose daughter, I think she's in grade 10, and a similar kind of, I don't know the exact amount, because she just shared with me that what should I do. She's to such an extent that she's even before an exam, she's till the last minute, she's kind of playing games, and then she goes and gives the exam and then comes back addicted. So how does one kind of counter that and de-addict?
That is, I think, where the technology parenting comes in now. Like, you people have adapted in the last 1 year, and now you're so positive with the online education and the virtual education. You have seen so much of positive change coming around. Same way, it's very important for parents also. So for as of now in India, for parents, giving a device was like giving a toy to a child. So now you have a new toy, and the rules and disciplines were not clear. And that is why, and this, I totally agree that these big four companies who create products, they create products for addiction. And the technology you were asking me, Geeta ma'am, is been inbuilt in these applications for long, and that is why they are the rulers. Like, for example, I have seen cases of addiction in a game, very popular game, which was recently banned by government of India, called PUBG. But now there are alternates of it, and people are playing those. These games are so addictive. They read your psychology very soon in the first few challenges, and that is how they drive you. That you are not able to go away from the machine, and it impacts here. There have been so many cases of mental health. So addiction is a big challenge, and for that, discipline gaming is very important. Talking about, we should not always say to the child no to games, or don't play games, or block the games. And if we take it in a positive direction, and we give them some space and some time. So I have seen children earning out money of this gaming, and they have started using the word esports. And if you talk to any of these boys, young boys who are earning millions and millions of rupees through esports, and try to do a debate, so they will fail you. So I think a balance is important, and gaming is not bad. Multiplayer games, you should have some precautions and cautions for children. Parents, digital parenting should also teach the use of digital money. हमें अपना, I remember my school days, even getting a 50 rupee or a 20 rupee note, I had so many explanations to give when I used to come back. And but today when I see children having easy access to cash just by pressing a button pay, and it is automatically linked to a credit card of a father or a mother. So I think that is where technology parenting is important. that we should teach them the value of money. It's not just like a Paytm or a press of button that you pay and it happens. It's whether, and that is what I tell. In Punjab, he spent 16 lakh rupees of his grandfather, 1/6, and this all was spent on a game for virtual accessories. Even if you are buying something like a commodity or something, so still there is something. Okay, you bought some clothes, you bought something to eat, but here you are buying virtual accessories which don't exist, and that too only you can use it in a game, and that too without a parental consent, and that too when you are a child, you are below 18. So these are some things where I think technology parenting is also. So the sessions which you are doing with children, I think it's more important. Children have always been very smart and intelligent in technology, but it's time that we also should teach parents about technology parenting, because otherwise they will complain. The screen time has increased because of your online education. He's always sitting in front of the computer. We can't say anything to. If I ask him, "What are you doing?" "I'm doing my assignment." So I think we also need to make parents also aware about it.
I think one part that I would like to add, and then being the founder of an edtech organization, we've been working very very closely. I think we cannot wish away AI, and what we do specifically talked about, Ms. Geeta, is FR, facial recognition. Now, facial recognition will pervade us in every sense of the word. It would. I'm sure that time is not too far away when the governments would allow us. COVID has even more accentuated the entire need for facial recognition. Currently, the world over, I have to leave apart some countries which are not governed by democratic setups, but currently the world over, there is no facial recognition law in place at all. But having said that particular part, facial recognition also helps in a lot of ways. Now, one part that we're talking about, and what EduStock has been working with the Fortune 50 companies to bring facial recognition to do some of the things that we're talking about to enhance the learning outcomes, to let administrators and school heads know as to how well the classrooms is being conducted. But more importantly, it also adds to some of the biggest fears that you live in your schools about injury, intruder detection, and more importantly, any untoward incident that can happen. And AI through facial recognition can help prevent and bring this down significantly. This is not to mention that in the post-COVID world, to bring kids back into the school, we will need tools in order to manage it far more effectively than what we currently have. So, a human error can really cost a lot of harm to us right now, particularly when we talk about social distancing, mask detection, temperature detection, and this stuff. When we also talk about WhatsApp groups being formed and parents consulting within each other, each class having a WhatsApp group, you're not being on top of anything. What it also calls about is that schools need to have a clearly defined technology policy. You have your own buses, you have your own teachers, you have your own buildings. You need to have a defined technology policy, and you need to be driving the technology policy. You need to have your own data storage in a cloud. That facial recognition data storage is inherently a copyright of the school, and no other person or an entity can make use of it. And obviously that would require you to be also turning not turning, but being far more educated on what is required. Just like organizations have all of these policies, schools as entities would also need to have these policies to store their data digitally and within their own premises, with the access restricted to only a few members. It can't be a very very loose policy. Your websites have become your virtual gateways, so the management of that, hacking of that information, and that kids photographs going on that, the consent of parents for usage of that information would have to be proactively taken, stored in the right manner, instead of what we've been doing all this while as well. Ms. Sarkar, you had a question to comment.
No, I just wanted to ask Mr. Tandon that, we will go back to school at some point of time. I really hope so, because that is where our children need to be. This online education, yes, it might have its positives, but then end of the day, it's the life's experiences that they get in a school, is the social emotional learning that happens over there. It's the teacher who's reaching out, and, the body contact, the body language, the eye contact, the pat on the back, all of that is required. But currently, going forward for the next 6 months, at least, it will still be online education. And our senior children will, of course, be online most of the time. See, earlier it was a structured time that the parents allowed their children that, okay, this is the time. But now, unfortunately, parents have no control over that. And even if you're working parents, then, it's very, very difficult. What are you, I mean, what should a parent do at this point of time? Because the cyber world is a dark world over there, and there are predators there. There's a lot of things that can happen there, and our children are explorers. So is there any way that, there is a timeout option or anything that can be put on where the child is there after every 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, maybe he kind of times out and he comes back to a safe zone or...
So, ma'am, there are child-friendly routers which are out in the market, and those routers, they first of all they take care of what kind of content is being streamed on the devices. Then there are tools like Google has launched a Google Family Link. Now it's a tool which, and most of the population in the country works on Android. So it is, and it even works on Apple devices. It is called Google Family Link, and it's no policing on the child. It is not intruding into their privacy or anything. But yes, it controls the kind of applications they are consuming. There is a timeout and the timeout option. So suppose my child is using Zoom, it will show how much of hours you have spent on Zoom, how much of hours you spent on Snapchat, Instagram, photos, and all that stuff. And then there is something under the parental control, on and off. So I don't want my child to be consuming internet late night alone. I can turn off that internet. I can turn it on. It also gives geofencing options. So even if your child is physically going out and moving around, you can see and you can check on him. And last is that every application he installs, approval comes to the parent wherever you are. Suppose my child is installing an app, it will come on my screen, a pop-up will come. My son name, he's installing this app, approve or reject. So now there is a time of talking and I can communicate. Why do you need this? He say, Papa, I need this for this thing. I'll say, okay, I'll approve. And then I approve. And so Google Family Link, I think, is a wonderful tool for especially the young teens to keep them in control. For senior children, we need more and more, we need to inculcate that responsibility about internet. I don't want them to be very experimental. Very sad in sharing this with you, but I have been getting so many incidences between this 9th and 12th graders of being either honey trapped or their private content is being shared. I don't know why and what leads them to experiment to create such content, self-created content where they are sharing their personal, intimate pictures with their so-called friends. And then when it goes viral or something goes wrong, your computer gets hacked or your relationship gets spoiled, then these children go through enormous pressure. They don't want to talk it out with their parents. They don't want to go to the law enforcement agency for any help. And then they are in real trouble. So this has been a little scary. So I think these children, they need to be more responsible about these things, that internet is not a playground where you can do such experiments. But for younger ones, I think this Google Family Link and having child-friendly routers, not open access, because in this COVID, everybody has realized the importance of good bandwidth and good internet connection. So it's always better to have a second router installed, which is called a child-friendly router. If you can't do that, it's better to install this Google Family Link, create a family tree, and then control at the parent, whomsoever, whether the father or mother, they can control. And there is a concern. I don't allow spying on my children. I don't like that at all. It's better to talk to them about their internet habits and make them responsible. And it's better to make them responsible rather to do these installing spy apps and policing on them. What are they chatting? Whom are they chatting? That should not be done. So I think this can be a solution to this, ma'am.
But this Google Family Link can work for senior children also, no? If you
yes,
speak
it will work.
anyone.
Yes. Yes. And it gives you a complete timeline of the number of hours spent. You don't want, you can stop, you can block access to that device, so that device will not function. and it is a visible product. It is not that you have to spy. It is the child knows that this product is there installed and it is controlling.
That is important. I think the child needs to know that, and
No,
the
yes,
child
yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Rakshit.
Yeah,
That's a lot of useful input.
Yes, very useful.
But I wanted to know, something more. Hello.
Yeah.
Rakshit, I wanted to know, we've had enough of your advice and precautions to be taken while, for the internet safety. What I want you to help us, how can we enhance our, online classes? How can we use technology to further enhance our classes?
So that's a wonderful question, ma'am. There are so many wonderful tools and applications which can add to your classes in terms, and they are secured applications. They take care of your privacy. And as rightly mentioned by Rohit, that yes, now because we are in a cyber school, we should take first priority is to take care of our data, because now everything is getting online. As ma'am said, there are classroom recordings and there is content being created by teachers which is shared digitally. So now digital security and data privacy becomes a very important role for every school. And very soon we'll be getting a new law, which is the PDPR, the Data Protection Bill for India. And that will make you more responsible to take care of children's data. So that is first thing, having a framework and policies, which I think I've worked with so many schools. Schools are very good in their scholastics and co-scholastics and academics and curriculums. But when it comes to technology, what I have seen as a negative point is there are multi-vendors. The computer is being given by Mr. A, one software is given by B, one account software is given by C. And then when anything goes wrong, then there is no ownership and no responsibility. My website, the domain is with Mr. X. He has left the company. Now the website is running on a Y server. So first thing, all this thing has to be streamlined. Second, there are wonderful tools which can enhance your online education. See, this is one interactive tool. Okay, you can have a classroom, the teacher is sitting, you are teaching. Then there are tools where you can create content. There are notepad tools where you can put on notes. There are calendars. For young ones, especially, you can create animated content. There are factories where you can create some good poems and animated contents. Like ma'am mentioned about craft. There are some tools which can help you in doing your social events like singings and dancing programs. So I think this all tools need to be identified. I can share some few of them which I have seen other good schools using it, and through that, when I got invited as a guest, I saw that they were using this tool and that was good. So, but the only thing is that whatever goes as a data, that data should be yours. Whatever application you are signing up with any organization or who's giving you the service, an NDA has to be signed so that the student data and the parent data is proprietary under your control and it is not misused. That is a very important and a crucial thing today. Whatever application you want, there are thousands of applications will be available. They'll be good, they'll be bad, but data is very important. And I can send you some good suggestions of applications which can enhance the quality of education and your online training, whatever platforms, whether it is Microsoft Teams, you use Zoom, you use Cisco, that is just a medium to connect.
No, I love that. Thank you so much.
Please share,
Sure,
Mr. Rakshit, definitely.
Ma'am, I'll put it across. I'll put it across.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, we've been having a very engaging discussion, but I'm sure that all of us would want to see that we don't end up spending the entire Saturday evening discussing among ourselves. So what we're going to do is we'll have one last question, but for sure, as I wrap up, I would want to have a continuation of the same session, very, very soon. So that what was supposed to be the agenda does get covered. Tuin, would you move to one last question?
Yeah, picking it up from where Ms. Sarkar left and also acknowledging the fact that schools are putting their best foot forward to ensure that the education remains unhampered as much as possible during the pandemic. And there seems to be a lot of optimism about it, but a very simple question: can online education or a cyber school replace a physical school?
No, I think.
Geeta ma'am, we'll start with you.
Absolutely not. This is a tool. It's a wire media. Ultimately, as human beings, so technology has gone far ahead, but at core, biologically, we are the same Homo sapien that we were. Our bodies haven't caught up with it yet. So socialization, human contact, eye to eye contact, these at the moment I don't see them being replaced. The itness of the teacher and the rapport that she has with the child in the class, you can't put a finger on it. It cannot be it cannot be really defined, and a machine, as far as I know, can't replace it, because it's very dynamic. It changes second to minute. You don't know where your class is going. It's like a drop of water. You don't know where it'll go. So I don't see it being replaced. Yes, technology is great. It's helped us. We have adapted. We're going to continue to use what is good. We continue to be careful and informed. But ultimately, I think it's that human to human contact which makes learning what it is.
So, with Sarkar, your views?
Yeah, I agree absolutely with every single word that Geeta just said. And play fields in school teach us the biggest lessons. Children there, they learn how to accept victory with both, grace, and the other way, it's leadership qualities come out there. Caring, sharing, sitting with each other, all of that is there. And also, more importantly, it's the movement of the physical space. In a school, you're moving from a different, you starting in one place, then moving to the music lab, then to the playing field, then to the lunchroom, then to the social sciences hub. So there's a change in the environment, and that also brings a freshness into you, both as the child and as the teacher also. Online teaching can get very monotonous at some point of time, because you're continuously sitting there. And the entire socio-emotional learning that I keep saying, that is what children require, and they need to be in school for that. I mean, all said and done, but technology being great, we can use technology, but in schools, please let children come back to school. That is what I say.
So, Meenakshi ma'am, Anuradha ma'am, would you like to
I
add something?
absolutely agree with what Geeta and Basvadatta had said. You cannot replace the class teacher. The human touch is very, very essential.
Yeah, so I think I also agree. And, it's about mentoring, the positive effect of mentoring. So I think we cannot really replace. And also, it also depends upon the age group. I would also say that for a, say, senior, if somebody is doing a diploma or a postgraduate, you have MOOCs, you have programs being run by the best universities. So that is a different ball game. But when we are talking about K to 12, I think, schools do play a very, very important, and just forget about the academic part. It's the other, you are getting children ready for life. It's not just about a trade. And how do you get children ready for life when they don't kind of come and see, negotiate, collaborate? Just to give you one small example, the other day, I had so I like to, I think most of us do, once in a while we go to different classes just to see what they're doing. So I was with my grade 6, and one of the girls, a little girl, so she said, "Ma'am, I can see that you are in school. Can you show us the picture of the hallway, because we are missing?" My heart went out. I mean, like, I was like overwhelmed. So I said, "Yes, I'll send you a video, and I can walk there and you can see." So I think school plays a very big part, or it's a very, very big part of our children's life and our life. And my teachers miss school. They say that, "Ma'am, we're just dying to come back to school." So I think it's whatever may happen. I think schools do, are required. That's
Of course, it's a home away from home. It's a safe environment. And all of it, the eye contact, and children sitting and sharing their lunch, sharing their stationery, getting into a fight, and yet knowing how to handle that fight and get out of it. All of that is much required, I think.
Yeah.
Well, given an option to open the schools, would you want to open them up? How soon? How soon would you
Monday.
want to
Monday morning. I'm ready. I can go tomorrow and get it sanitized. And Monday morning,
I look back from my times in the school, and I'm sure that you would have had many such students like me as well, who had one excuse or the other to avoid schools. and coming, to a full circle now where my kids just want to be in the school irrespective. So when I started to step into my office, and they argued with me. One happens to be in K1, another happens to be in grade 1, as little that if you can go to the office, why can't we go to the school? So kids in over the last few years have fallen in love with the school, and I think all thanks to all of you to have made schools such a lively, happier place. Also, I think as I wrap up and thank all of you, I'm sure that we've thanked and we will continue to thank from the bottom of our hearts all the healthcare workers and doctors and municipal corporation people. But I'm also sure that we, among the only class of professionals who had to completely change their lives, have been the teachers and the students with themselves, getting confined, learning newer things. They had to manage their home, sitting in home. They were the ones who had to keep their child away so that the other kids could study as well. And on that note, I think all of us could at least thank all of them to have contributed to a continued learning in these times. And when schools reopen, we can show our gratitude to them back as well. Many thanks to each one of you. Many thanks, Rakshit, for taking your time out. I would love to see all of you back in a few days' time to continue this conversation, because I certainly know that we wanted to have more discussions, but paucity of time and to celebrate the weekend, the first weekend of the new year, we would love to take a break now. Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a
Thank you
lovely
so much.
weekend.
Thank you
And
so much to everyone.
Wonderful talking to everybody. Have a
Thank
nice
you very
weekend.
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
Bye-bye.